Pretend for a second that you can't get out of bed alone in the morning. All your muscles ache, joints crack, you can't feed yourself, you can't even bathe yourself. But yet, you still have precious life inside of your exhausted body. Should a person have the right to ask a doctor to end their life? Physician-assisted suicide and euthanasia is a highly controversial subject that some argue should be legal, while others say it should remain illegal. All of us will grow old and possibly sick at some point in our lives. It's important to understand the rights we will have in the future. Physician-assisted suicide is a controversial idea that some argue prevents suffering at the end of life and gives patients rights over their body, while others argue it goes against the most primal oath a doctor takes. There are many different personal views when it comes to the idea of euthanasia. Some people believe euthanasia should be legal because it can end patient suffering and promote their rights. Many people suffer in hospitals near the end of their lives, and some people believe that they have the right to choose to die. They also believe that the Hippocratic Oath is no longer applicable in modern times. The right not to be forced into suffering is directly outlined in the European Declaration of Human Rights. Denying a person their right to decide whether to pass on is a crime in the same way that killing someone is a crime. According to The Telegraph, a daily newspaper based in the UK, and recalling accounts of a woman who was bedridden at the age of 46, choosing to die is not something people do out of desperation. It's something that suffering people do, suffering but otherwise mentally healthy people do out of desperation, when they want to die peacefully in their own homes instead of painfully in a hospital. Humans have the right not to be forced to suffer. Many people believe that they have control over their own life, and laws against euthanasia are placing unnecessary restraints on human life. According to the BBC, the world's largest and oldest broadcasting network, the right to life implies the right to a minimum quality of life and the right to shorten an unpleasant death. It is also believed that the right not to be killed would be protection against misuse of euthanasia by medical professionals and suppliers. Because this right is upheld in all developed countries around the world, misuse of euthanasia to save money in a medical setting is highly unlikely. Euthanasia is only legal in 7 countries and 4 different U.S. states currently, preventing basic human rights from being expressed. The Hippocratic Oath is attributed to Hippocrates and is an oath some medical professionals take. It states that they will not knowingly aid in taking a patient's life. The Pro-Choice Action Network is an advocacy group for many topics based in British Columbia. This group states that the Hippocratic Oath has no legal status, and many schools do not practice its recital. The oath used to dictate that a doctor cannot break a patient's skin. It also stated that women cannot enter into the profession. Since its creation, these statements have been deleted. Because this oath has been revised so many times to fit new technology and modernizing days, it's less credible. Following a not credible oath would make modern doctors equally not credible. Because a person has rights over their own body, and the Hippocratic Oath has been modified on numerous occasions, it can be seen why some people are in favor of euthanasia. With this said, there are still equally viable arguments against euthanasia and people who believe it should be illegal. Making euthanasia illegal is not creating government-mandated suffering. A person does not have control over their death, and euthanasia goes against the first oath a doctor takes. One group of people, doctors, cannot be given power to kill another group of people, patients. According to the Patients' Right Council, in the same way that laws against contaminated food is not government-mandated starvation, laws against euthanasia is not government-mandated suffering. The law to prevent a person from consuming contaminated foods does not take away that right to food, it only keeps the consumer safe. These laws against euthanasia are in place to prevent abuse. Choosing to die is more than just the patient, affects more than just the patient. Consequences such as anger, grief, and guilt must be balanced among their loved ones as well. Years ago, people didn't want to die. They didn't want to commit suicide. Now, due to selfish desire and the change in our concept of rights, they want to die. A quote, "If they wanted to exercise their rights, they should have done so a long time ago. Changed their diets and not gotten cancer." Although harsh, exercising rights and taking control goes beyond the end-of-life beliefs. The first promise sworn in the Hippocratic Oath is the promise against killing patients. According to Leon Cass, a professor at the University of Chicago, the first promise of self-restraint sworn to in the Hippocratic Oath, as medicine's primary taboo, "I will neither give a deadly drug to anybody if asked for it, nor will I make a suggestion to this effect." Just because it's the patient's choice does not mean that is the right thing to do. The human body demands respect by its very nature, and this is not earned in breaking the Hippocratic Oath. Creating laws against euthanasia protects against misuse and does not go against human rights. It also obeys the Hippocratic Oath. With the counter-arguments to the pros of legalization so strong, it's easy to see why euthanasia is highly debatable. As discussed, there are many different arguments for both sides of different topics such as patient suffering, the right to die, and the Hippocratic Oath. Whether euthanasia is a crime or if it's justified. When forming a personal opinion, remember, this opinion could mean life or death for someone and their loved ones.